With the details now, Parliament is expected to later today debate the report of the Defense and Interior Committee on whether or not to ratify the Ghana-US Cooperation Agreement. The Speaker suspended the debate to allow for the incorporation of the minority's views into it. Ahead of that, NDC organizer Kofi Adams has hinted the minority may boycott proceedings during the approval. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, joins me from Parliament. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, Gifty.
Joseph, if you can hear me, give us a summary of what's been happening in Parliament so far.
So this morning, the Defense and Interior Committee was ready to present its report on the Ghana-US government military cooperation deal to the House. According to the committee, they are done with their work and they have recommendations. And we've gathered that the committee is actually recommending that Parliament approves this particular deal. And so that indication was given, and the Speaker allowed for that. But the minority leader, Harry Idrisu, raised an issue with how the views of the minority had not been incorporated into the report that had been brought to the floor. And so he made a specific demand that he would want the views of those on the minority side, which is that they think this agreement is a bad one and that it shouldn't pass. They want those views captured in the report. Eventually, the Speaker agreed to their request and directed that the leadership of the committee steps out, go meet, and incorporate the views of the minority into that report and bring it back subsequently. And so the House is on break at the moment. We are waiting for that final report, and then it will be late for the necessary debate. And
so how long are we looking at before Parliament reconvenes? As in, how long have they been away?
They've been away for the last 40 minutes or so, 40 minutes. The break is expected to last for an hour, but we gather that the break may take a longer duration than that because the committee is still trying to put the finishing touches. The additional details that need to be incorporated has to be typed, it has to be edited, and then the printing has to be done for copies of the report to be made available to all members of Parliament and other individuals around. So this may run a little later into the evening than the 1 hour break that we're told we would have, but the House and leadership have indicated that this is an item they want to deal with before they go on break today.
On break. And we'll talk about what they won't be able to do before they go on break as well. But the NDC was in Parliament today. So were a number of youth, I think one youth group, the Fighters. Gakpo, bring us to speed what happened from this morning up until now. Whilst Parliament is on break, what are they doing?
So a number of them, led by Ernesto Yeboah, had showed up in Parliament and were trying to get through the gate and then get in. But the gate was locked. The gate was locked by the security team here in Parliament. They had insisted that some of the youth group some members of the youth group had absolutely no business here, so they won't allow them in. At a point in time, some members of Parliament, including the MP for Ningo Pram Pram and Kwabena Minta Kando, another minority MP, tried stepping in. They moved all the way to the gate to make specific demands on the security team that they have constituents who are coming in on this final day of sitting of Parliament to observe how they will deal with those two major items, the RTI bill and then the US-Ghana government military cooperation deal. And so they don't understand why the access to the House should be blocked when they were just coming in to sit in the public gallery. At a point in time, the security team, although the gate was closed, there was a smaller entrance that was open, and they were doing a bit of a screening. And, you know, they call in some of the members of the group who had gathered, have a conversation with them, and screen them to a certain extent, and then they would allow those individuals in. But the majority of them were left outside, and they were not allowed in. Just a few of them got the chance to come in here to come sit in the public gallery. And then there were the officials of the NDC as well who showed up, who you rightly made reference to, led by the the party's chairman, Kofi Portofe himself, the party's general secretary, Asiedun Ketia, and national organizer, Kofi Adams, deputy general secretary, Koko Anyideho. They've all been in the public gallery, and they say they're coming to show solidarity for their minority members and to further encourage them to object and not allow for the military deal, the agreement on that, to pass here in Parliament.
Parliament is on break. What are they doing now? Now that Parliament is on break, what are they doing? Have they left Parliament or are they still there?
They've actually dispersed, but they've indicated that just as the House is on break, they would also step out a little, but they'll be back when the main discussions begin.
Right.
I've actually been speaking to some of them. I've been having a conversation with Koko Anyideho, who is the Deputy General Secretary, and he says that although they foresee a situation where the majority having their way and this deal being approved eventually, they think this is not the last of it. They are committed to step out onto the streets, to demonstrate, and to repeatedly make the point to President Akufo-Addo that this agreement is not in the interest of Ghana and that it has to be withdrawn. I've also been interacting with Kofi Adams, who is the party's national organizer. He gave a slight hint that we shouldn't be surprised if we see members on the minority boycott the eventual approval process when the issue gets to the floor, because they are worried that the majority, they've made up their mind that this transaction, which they, the minority, believe is a sale of Ghana's sovereignty, will be pushed through at all costs.
Will be pushed through at all costs. Joseph,
they would not be part of that.
Hang on for me a while. We'll come back to you and talk about RTI bill, etc. And we'll also play a Kofi Adams interview. But earlier, the police blocked the main entrance of Parliament, as Joseph is saying. Now, the group is called the Economic Fighters League. They wanted to be there. Actually, they were here this week, saying that they will be in Parliament this Friday. So here is what happened, a recap of what happened earlier this morning. When we return, we'll bring you the conversation that Joseph has had with Kofi Adams, as well as the other NDC members. And then we'll go back to Joseph and talk about the RTI. This is what happened in Parliament today.
I am here to sit in the public gallery to observe how my MP votes on this treacherous agreement.
What have you been told? When you came here, what did they tell you?
They said they wouldn't allow us in because they are not interested in this. They are interested in American flag.
So let's hear from a lot more of them. Ernesto Yeboah is actually leader of the group. He's addressing the media. Let's hear from him.
Right before the members of Parliament for consideration, and that is our only interest. Our interest is to ensure that that paper is eliminated. Our interest is to ensure that that paper is removed and withdrawn totally from the House of Parliament, and even from public discussion and even private discussion. So this is our focus. This is the threat that we are confronted with, and we are not going to lose that focus in ensuring of the people of Ghana in resistance to this attempt to recolonize Ghana.
What have you been told? You came here trying to get access. What have you been told about how come you can be allowed?
The Ghana police are telling us nothing, except that some have come to us privately to tell us that they believe in what we are doing. We are standing up for the nation, but they are under instructions. I don't know what they want to see before we are allowed into the House of Parliament to observe proceedings. I don't know what they want us to see. Unless they want us to show our American flags before we are allowed. Otherwise, I mean, there is no basis for preventing us entry. Are we wielding guns? Are we wielding cutlasses? Are we wielding any weapons? So on what basis? Of course, we will get in, whether they like it or not. In fact, this gate is so easy to bring it down. But that is not even what we are aiming for. We are simply speaking to them. We have the brain power to speak to them, to make them understand that their uniforms are useless. Uniform is useless if they allow our members of Parliament and indeed country to take us for granted. So as the leader of the Economic Fighters League, having called on all Ghanaians to storm Parliament House, and in following that particular directive, this is why we are here. We are here as first citizens of the Republic of Ghana, and that is precisely what we are here to do, to ensure that the message to our leaders is clear.
The police explain this as a security zone. Don't you agree?
He wants to sell it to us for us. He's the man who wants to sell his other property.
Get it?
Yeah, people are in trouble.
Today is a our day.
So that's what happened this morning when those people decided or tried to get into Parliament to sit in the public gallery to have a view of what's happening on the floor. Well, if you were there and weren't allowed into Parliament, don't worry. This is how it all went down.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, indeed. In 2015, 25% was taken off the fuel prices, but no fares were affected. But they still listed as a challenge. So I must be truthful and bring it to the House. Concerning the VAT, we started having reduction in fares, but the monopoly being enjoyed now by hour has had people complaining that the fares are high. We've met them 5 times, and we are still meeting them to make sure they are fair. They are competitive.
That's actually the Aviation Minister earlier in Parliament today. Sincere apologies for that wrong said there. We'll bring you the debate as it happened in Parliament. But here is a conversation that Joseph Opoku Gakpo had with Kofi Adams, who is hinting that the minority may boycott the debate when the bill comes back, when Parliament returns from that short break they've taken.
Man of the NDC, a lot of you, the party executives, are here in Parliament. What exactly are you doing, particularly with your red band on your neck?
Thank you. We're here in Parliament today to support our members of Parliament to do good to this country. An agreement is to be laid in Parliament or has been brought to Parliament for Parliament to pass, which we see as detrimental to the well-being of this country, and that it once again will be bringing about the colonization that we fought against many years ago is what is being brought back to us in the name of protection. And we think that it is rubbish, it is unacceptable, and it is something the good people of this country must not support and are not supporting. And so the best we can do as a party is to be in Parliament today to show support with our members. At least if the MPP majority decides to sell Ghana, Ghanaians will know that the NDC minority is opposed to selling Ghana.
So let's talk about what had happened earlier. Now we'll look at it a little later, what is happening in Parliament, because the initial report did not capture the views of the minority, and the Speaker has directed that should be done, and then that final report be brought to the House.
Sure.
For you, what does that mean for the process?
You see, they know very well that this is a bad agreement and this is a bad deal. So they thought that they will bring a report, knowing too well that the committee is made up of NDC and MPP. So they will bring a report as if all agreed to the agreement. And the minority side rules and said, no, the report must capture their views at the committee level, so that anyone who will pick the report in future will know that the NDC stood with Ghanaians to oppose these things. And that for us, Ghana first. And I think that I commend the speaker also for at least allowing this right thing to be done, that the report must capture what happened at the committee, the committee's report. Even though it's a committee's report, it must capture the details of discussions that went on there.
So it's clear that you, the minority, will have your say, but the majority will have their way. The committee is actually recommending the approval of this particular agreement and its ratification. What more will you, the NDC, do? Looks like you've lost the battle, at least here in Parliament.
We are losing the battle in Parliament doesn't mean we are losing the battle in Ghana. We will battle with Ghanaians and we'll make sure that this colonization will stay on only for the next 2 years when the MPP will remain in charge. When we win, we will review this agreement immediately.
But the government has indicated, the defense has made the point that you started all this. And now it looks like you are turning around.
I don't want us to even go back on such tangent, because if we started anything, they would not have been bringing another agreement today. If we did sign for a limited engagement, for a purpose. What they are doing now is selling Ghana off completely. And it is only the Americans who decide that we want to go, then they will go. Without hindrance. They are coming in and bringing in everything and anything, and you have no right to check and know what they are bringing in. They are coming in and taking out anything they want to take. You have no right in knowing what it is that they are taking out. And this is like colonization. It was our colonial masters who were doing so. They were taking our everything without us having a say. We had no right to question them. That is exactly what we are being put through now.
So the NDC will abrogate this deal once
we will immediately review this deal and make sure that Ghanaians get the best out of it.
But you know that would obviously come with some consequence after an agreement has been signed and approved and ratified by Parliament.
You see,
and you decide
that is why we are stating the concerns of the good people of this country. It is not only the NDC that is speaking. Indeed, experts, even including some members of MPP out there, have spoken. But I do not know what is in it. Whether a small praise that the Americans give to our president is what is leading him to do this, we do not know. That a praise. I'm not surprised that the American president ended up describing countries in our part of the continent as shithole, even though I disagree with him. But if you are a president and you know that you have leaders who have accepted this kind of agreement and are willing to take it to their parliament for ratification, you will describe them as shithole countries.
So we can expect that the minority will vote against the approval when it gets to the floor generally, eventually.
We strongly think that this agreement is not even properly before the House, and we think that the minority will use every means possible. And if that fails, we will want the voting to be done in such a way that it will go on record as to who voted how, so that tomorrow Ghanaians will know which people sold Ghana in the 21st century. If they refuse that, maybe our side may not even participate in this type of Hundio sales.
Well, you won't participate.
You won't participate in the sales of Ghana because they are absolutely selling Ghana.
Shouldn't you rather be urging your members to rather stay on the floor and get the debate going than probably
that's why they have stayed. That's why they have stayed, and they have made their contribution earlier, like you yourself, you are admitting. At the committee level, they did it. When the report was being laid in the House in a way that it must not, they raised their concerns. You saw the minority leader on his feet pointing to wrongs in the report, and that they really want to see that their views are captured in there. Having done so, we will continue the debate. But if they insist, like you said, that the president has whipped all his MPs, that they must come and defend and vote for this agreement. So, and they have the numbers, meaning that they are going to have their way. So what is the objective of sitting there and letting them have their way?
Will the majority have its way? We'll find out.